Today I'm going to show you how to use the Minitab web version in calculating area under a curve using the normal curve, standard normal curve, or for a sampling distribution. So it's all the same feature. It just, depending on the type of problem you have, what you're plugging in. So here I'm going to share my Minitab file, which I don't really have a file, just my Minitab screen. If I can get that here. Let's see. I don't think this is the one. Oh, this is the one. Okay. All right. So here's my Minitab screen. Now for this topic, and you're finding a probability or a percentile, meaning you're finding the area under the curve, or you're given the area and you're finding the data value that corresponds, you actually don't need raw data. You just need summarized data. So in these problems, there's two different ways, depending on what you're asked for. So if you're finding a probability, that means you're finding the area under the curve. If you're finding a percentile, it means you're given the area and you're finding the corresponding data value. So let's go ahead and get into this feature. So we will start by going to graph, and we'll go down to probability distribution plot. Then we're going to choose view probability. So this is the same for all the different ways. Well, it doesn't matter if you're finding a probability or if you're finding a percentile, first of all, and it doesn't matter what type of problem you're on. If you're just on a normal curve, so meaning you're just studying data values, or if you're on the standard normal curve where you're standardizing those values, or if you're looking at a sampling distribution, meaning we're looking at samples and not just individual values, we still go here to view probability. So I'll get into here. Now, if you're on the normal curve, you'll see that it already defaults to normal, just meaning a symmetric curve. You'll also notice here under the mean and standard deviation, it defaults to the standard normal curve, the 0 and 1. So that's fine. If we have a specific mean and a specific standard deviation, then we will change those. So let's say that we're going to study grades on exam 1. If we're studying the average for all the Stat 1 students in the spring semester, we'll say that exam 1 had an average of 80 and a standard deviation of 9. Whoops, 9. Okay, that's just for an example. Now I will go ahead and choose options here. Now, under my options, I need to tell Minitab if the shaded area represents a specific probability or a specific X value. So if the shaded area corresponds to a specified probability, that means you have the probability, meaning you know the area under the curve and you're searching for that value. If you choose a specified X value, that means that you are finding the probability because you already have the corresponding value. Okay. So right now I'm going to find the probability. So I can imagine the question saying something like, what is the probability with a center of 85 and a spread of 9? And maybe it says, what's the probability that something is more than 90? So I want to know, what is the probability that a student earned more than 90% on exam 1? So a more than would indicate a right tail. So I will select right tail. Then I'm going to put in my value of interest, which would be 90 here. Now, if I was looking at a less than, I would use a left tail. We could look at an equal tails or a middle. So maybe you want to look at something in between two values. You could select that. I'm just going to select it so you could just see. So maybe I want to know what is the probability that someone earned between an 85 and a 95. Then I could plug that in here. Okay. So you just have to select what you're interested in. So I'm saying let's find the probability that someone earned more than a 90. Okay, so right tail 90, and I can go ahead and click OK. I will click OK again, and it's going to give me a graph here of my distribution. So there it is. Okay, so this should correspond with what I'm visualizing, that the area is greater than 90. So it's a 13.33% chance. Okay, so it's a 0.133 chance that someone, or probability, that someone is earning above a 90 on exam one. Now, let's say we want to kind of use the same scenario, but we want to find a percentile. So maybe I want to find something like the 40th percentile for this data set, where the center is 85, the spread is 9. So I will go right back into that same feature. So graph, probability distribution plot. I will go into view probability. I'm going to leave these things as they are. So normal, meaning it's a symmetric curve, set my center and spread. I'm going to options. So now if I'm finding a percentile, I'm going to choose a specified probability, meaning that I have the probability. So if I said I wanted to find the 40th percentile, I want you to visualize what that means. And what that looks like means that 40% to the left of the curve is shaded, okay? So left of this value. So on the bottom 40% and then the upper 60%. So I'm going to choose left tail here. And the probability is 0.4. All right, I'm going to click OK twice. Take a look at this image. Hopefully this is what you were visualizing. And we can see it's 77.7. So 40% of the students, okay, earned a 77.7 or less on exam one. Now I can see how that's overlapping, right? And that does happen sometimes on this web version. You can just expand this and you can see now all the numbers, okay? Right? So again, that means that 40% of the students earned 77.7 or less on exam one.